Welcome back to The Pulse, your weekly guide to global health. Meningitis and pneumonia are terrifying words for any parent. They have many causes, but one of the main culprits is a bacteria known as Haemophilus influenzae, or Hib. Every year, 3 million kids, mainly in poor countries, come down with Hib disease. Many survive with a legacy of deafness, paralysis, or brain damage, and roughly 400,000 don't make it at all. The good news is that there's now a highly effective vaccine against Hib, but the challenge lies in getting governments to accept it. We went to Bangladesh and the Gambia on the trail of this life-saving vaccine.
She was born just 6 months ago, and already little Lima's life is in danger. She's suffering from a major cause of death and disability in the third world, meningitis. On the wards of the Dhaka Shishu Children's Hospital in the Bangladeshi capital, Dr. Rahul Amin sees the fight against meningitis by children like Lima every day.
She came to this hospital with the history of fever and convulsion and followed by unconsciousness. Now you can see that this child is still very sick and she has developed some sequelae like disability. You know, these upper limbs, these are stiff, you know, and also the lower limbs, these are stiff. So pointing to that she will be developing disability, and in course of time she might need a wheelchair for her movement.
Dr. Armin suspects that Lima's meningitis has been caused by Hib, a dangerous bacterium that lurks in the nose and the throat, but can be spread easily from child to child through sneezing, coughing, and almost any close contact. Its full name, Haemophilus influenza type B, suggests it's a type of flu. It isn't, but all too often it's mistaken for it, even by doctors, and with potentially fatal consequences for its victims. It attacks suddenly, spreading into the lungs and infecting the blood, causing pneumonia or meningitis. For Lima's mother, her daughter's illness was a shock.
It started 22 days ago. The baby had fever, and then on the 4th day, the baby started having fits, and I brought her to hospital. She was not moving her arms or her legs. She was not looking at anything. She was looking blank.
A sample of Lima's spinal fluid was taken to the hospital's microbiology lab to screen it for Hib bacteria. After culturing bacteria from the sample overnight, Dr. Samir Sahar has been looking at Lima's results in the lab.
So the bacteria which grew from the spinal fluid of Lima, I'm now trying to agglutinate it with the specific antisera for Hib. And you can see the clear-cut clumping of the bacteria which has grown from Lima's spinal fluid. And that indicates she is having meningitis due to Hib.
Dr. Sahar's team has been working to discover the true extent of Hib across the country.
The situation with Hib in Bangladesh is really very great because 50% of all meningitis cases who are coming to this hospital are due to the Hib. And second, we found that 30% of the severe pneumonia cases are due to Hib.
This is the only hospital across the whole of Bangladesh with a laboratory actively investigating the life-threatening Hib bacteria.
Most of the labs in the country are not having the resources to culture this organism, and that's the reason the overall Hib burden in the country remaining underestimated.
Lima has been put on antibiotics, but her lab result reveals something else.
So after isolation of Hib from Lima's case, we tested it by a quick test which indicates that it is resistant to first line of antibiotic. So we have to go for second line, more powerful and expensive antibiotic to treat this Hib meningitis case.
And it's not just Lima. Similar results are being found right across the country.
So in the recent years, we are encountering more and more drug-resistant strains, and they are mainly resistant to the antibiotic which are readily available in the hospital and which is cheaper. And so pediatricians are facing the challenge to treat these cases because they need to use the most expensive drugs which are not readily available in the hospital, and that's why treatment is delayed. And this delay in treatment is leading to the more disability and more death.
Thousands of miles away from Dakar, across Asia and into the continent of Africa, a recent vaccination trial has offered a new glimmer of hope for the developing world. Banjul, the capital of the West African tourist hotspot, the Gambia. In 1993, the Medical Research Council decided to test a vaccine already in use in the developed world. The team targeted children under the age of 1, those most at risk from Hib. 3 doses were given at 2, 3 and 4 months old.
We vaccinated over 42,000 children. The result was fantastic. We had 100% protection against pneumonia among the children that received the vaccine versus those that did not. And for other Hib disease, including meningitis, we had 95% protection.
In 1997, with this great success under their belts, Dr. Richard Adigbola and the Medical Research Council, together with the Gambian government, began research to see whether these promising results could be repeated across the whole country. Could the vaccine wipe out Hib? The Gambia would become the first in Africa to introduce the Hib vaccine to its national immunization program.
It was agreed, as it was done in the trial, to vaccinate the children at ages 2, 3, and 4 months. So to complete a vaccine course was 3 doses. And what we did essentially was to set up a surveillance system targeted at meningitis. The idea was to make sure that we capture every child that could have meningitis. Then we set the apparatus in place to make sure that there was accurate documentation of every child presenting within a period of 5 years with Hib disease in the western region of the Gambia.
By the end of the trial in 2002, the researchers were astounded by their findings.
As you can see, this graph illustrated the dramatic result that we got from the study. The incidence used to be over 200 cases per 100,000 children per year. And as we move in to the years where the vaccine was being used routinely, by the end of the study in 2002, the incidence has dropped to 0. The result was dramatic. It was really amazing.
The program, when it was rolled out, did not go as smoothly. Only 70% of the targeted children were immunized. Vaccine supply was erratic, and there were delays in getting supplies to clinics. Even then, the results were good.
Although this was of a concern to us that the children were not getting vaccinated at the time that we had proposed to vaccinate them, we find at the end of the day that the vaccine was still as effective as we could have imagined.
But back at the Dhaka Shishu Hospital in Bangladesh, there was no Hib vaccine available to prevent baby Lima's meningitis. Her condition has become more serious overnight.
Lima now has developed a respiratory distress due to secondary infection in the lungs as a complication of Hib meningitis. Now she is getting oxygen therapy. Her chance of survival is 50-50.
Dr. Sahar's dream is to make a vaccine available for all children in Bangladesh.
I get so frustrated because my child and anybody like me of this socioeconomic status has got this vaccine, but these children are not protected only because of money.
And there's another issue that's denying children access to the vaccine.
Even the policymakers are convinced about the big burden of Hib diseases in Bangladesh. Bangladesh will not be able to introduce the vaccine in our national immunization program using our own resources. But we are eligible to apply for international funding.
However, there's a catch. Misdiagnosis and underreporting of Hib are so widespread that many developing countries don't know or can't prove that they need help. In the Gambia, money for the Hib vaccination program has been provided not by the government, but by international donors such as Gavi, the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunization. Soon, this funding is up for review.
It would be unthinkable that the vaccination will be discontinued after observing these results, and we expect that those countries that are not using the vaccine now will be encouraged by this data to introduce the vaccine in their countries so that the Hib disease may be eliminated from most of the developing countries.
75% of the world's children do not have access to immunization against Hib. For the vaccine, success should breed success. The bigger the take-up, the lower the price, and more countries will want to benefit. Vaccination has been so successful in the Gambia that Hib has been virtually eliminated from the country. The hope is that as the news spreads, other developing countries can follow this success, making disease and disability by Hib a thing of the past.
That's all for this edition. But join us again next time on The Pulse.